My name is Eileen Haig. I'm the president of the National Board for Women in Medicine, and we're here in Philadelphia on the occasion of our 50th birthday. It will be my privilege tonight to introduce you to and tell you a little bit about some of our members who are here.
Anytime.
Anne Bridenstine, elected to the board in 1998 after her service on the Commonwealth Board. She is also active on the Catholic Social Services Board and the Jefferson Health System Board. Lynn Pollock, elected to the board in 1998 after service on the Commonwealth Board. She has served as vice president of the board and as a member of the executive committee for both boards. President of her own interior design firm, she also has worked for March of Dimes, the Philadelphia Orchestra Association, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and the Kimmel Center for the Performing Arts.
Yes, I am so pleased that we have accomplished our mission of getting women into medicine. Hooray for the National Board for Women in Medicine. That's it.
Gail Forster, elected to the board in 1966. She chaired the Endowment Committee for the National Board Award and has been the chair of the award committee. Her early career was in engineering with Philco Corporation and the Radiation Laboratory at MIT. She served as president of the National Foundation for Women's Health, and she has an abiding interest in women's medicine as well as American maritime history.
The great joy of being a member of this national board is not only the worthwhile projects that we have had in the past, but the wonderful friendship that comes with these marvelous women. It's been a great joy to me and a very important part of my life.
Thank you. Elected Shelley Roth, elected in 1997. She is the founder and president of Investor Relations Partners, Inc., a financial communication agency that links public companies with Wall Street and institutional investors. She also serves on the board of the New Jersey Symphony.
Thank you. It's really been a wonderful experience to be on this board, to have met the people I've met, to have enjoyed their company, to have learned so much from them, and to have tried to have given a little bit back. Thank you.
Agnes Burke, elected to the board in 1973. She is a past president and the daughter of one of our charter members. She taught high school English and was a children's librarian at the Boston Public Library. Also, she has been on the board of the Massachusetts General Hospital Service League.
And I think you want to know what I like about the National Board, right? First of all, it was an introduction to a pioneering medical school for women, and also one medically pioneering. They were the first to have a center for women's health in particular, and alerted us all to osteoporosis and the danger of that. The other thing I've enjoyed so much is the link between generations. My mother was a founding member, and there are other people, other members whose mothers were. Bessoni, for example, her mother was a judge. A link between those wonderful women between the wars and later women who have particularly enjoyed, I think, having friendships all over the country, linked by their interest in the medical college. So it's meant a lot to me, and I've enjoyed it thoroughly.
Thank you.
You're right. Thanks.
That was lovely.
Can't get any closer than your mic.
Catherine Christoffel, elected to the board in 1998. She is a recipient of the board's Marion Spencer Fay Award. She is a professor of pediatrics and preventive medicine at the Feinberg School of Medicine at Northwestern University Medical School and an attending pediatrician at Children's Memorial Hospital in Chicago. She is the medical director of Handgun Epidemic Lowering Plan Network.
Thank you. Well, I'm just delighted to be here for this event. I have experienced the National Board as a nurturing and strengthening organization, which has really inspired me. I mean, one goes to a lot of places which take one's energy, but my experience of the board is that it gives me energy. And I also am really impressed by this celebration of a job done. You know, I'm in middle life and in the waning, looking towards the waning years of my career, and I find myself intrigued by this concept of celebrating and being content with what one has accomplished. I think it's fantastic. So I wanted to come back after my award visit and really haven't had the opportunity, and I figured this was the time to make it. So thank you for the invitation, and I'm pleased to be here.
Doris Bartuska, elected to the board in 1983. She was inducted into the American Medical Women's International Hall of Fame in June 2003, recognizing her as one of the first women physicians to be certified in endocrinology and hematology. She is an emeritus professor of medicine at Drexel University School of Medicine and is a distinguished daughter of Pennsylvania.
I became involved with the National Board when I became Dr. Marion Fay's Associate Dean. And when she couldn't fulfill all her commitments, she would ask me to meet with you. And that's how I got to know most of you. And I could have a vignette about each one. But I remember very well Denny Gord in the wonderful Florida meeting, and our wonderful legislative influence in Washington so many times, meeting with our senators and representatives with entree with the National Board. And also, I remember one day when we had a meeting with the Commonwealth Board, and Grace Kelly's mother was there, and Dr. Fay, and most of you. And as you know, Ma Kelly was a physical ed teacher at University of Pennsylvania. So she had us all in her room, as you're going to later this evening, doing calisthenics. And I wish I had a videotape of that. Dr. Fay and Ma Kelly and all of us laying on the rug in this hotel doing sit-ups. But anyway, you're a remarkable group of women. I could mention all of you. I like the achievements of Gail Forster, and of course the musicianship of Selma Smith. Truly, anyway, I've been privileged to be part of this remarkable group. Thank you.
Denny Gordon, elected to the board in 1980 and a past president. She had a 20-year career in marketing and publishing and has served on several local boards in Florida, including the Education Foundation, the American Cancer Society, the Junior League, and the Land Trust. She was vice president of Mount Holyoke's class of 1955.
Gosh, I'm glad you're there for the history lesson, because I wouldn't have remembered all that. I think probably my greatest thing with this board is bringing you aboard. After a very eventful ride in Aspen up where nobody else would take the chairlift. So you are my legacy, my love, and thank you for bringing us all together tonight. It's a sad one and it's a glad one. And I'm more sad than glad right now looking at you, kid. You did it. God bless you. God bless us all. The tribute is here for those of us who are here sharing it. Amen.
Weston, elected to the board in 1984, she is a past president. As an international organization specialist, she has worked as a consultant to the U.S. Foreign Service agencies in Washington, D.C. She is a former president of the Women's Institute of the American University and principal U.S. delegate to the OAS Inter-American Commission of Women. She is currently president of the Public Members Association of the Foreign Service.
Well, that's a nice introduction. Thank you. And you want me to say a few words? Well, all I can say is that of all the things that I've been associated with, I really hold dear the Medical College of Pennsylvania's National Board because of the women with whom I've become associated. They had purpose. The purpose was to do something for women in medicine. It is accomplished. I think it's something that we can be very proud of. The endowment or the National Board Award is something I'm very proud of. I was the president when that happened, and I know Gail Forster was the driving force in raising the money, but I had to talk her into doing the job. And so I take credit as well. And I want to say that keeping in touch with so many of you over the years has been a pleasant time for me. Some of you have become good friends, and some we've lost contact with, but it's wonderful to be here tonight and see so many of the faces I haven't seen in a long time. And it's really a pleasure to be with this outstanding group of women.
Nathalie Bartle, elected to the board in 1994 and is a past president. She is a professor in the Department of Community Health and Prevention at Drexel University School of Public Health, where she also serves as an associate dean for student affairs. She also has been on the faculty at the University of Texas and served as a senior research associate and member of the Harvard University Working Group of Early Life and Adolescence. She is the author of Venus in Blue Jeans, Why Mothers and Daughters Need to Talk About Sex.
Thank you, Eileen. What I would like to say is really more about the women who were the true pioneers in beginning the National Board at a time when it was almost unheard of for women to even be entering medical school at that time. And I think that the tradition that they started at that time and the commitment has been a great inspiration to all of us who've served on the board and to women who have now not only entered the field of medicine but the health sciences in great numbers. And I think that sometimes the heroes are not praised enough and recognized enough as the women, so many women who have dedicated their time, their commitment, their expertise, their money to the mission of this board. And I think that we've seen great progress. There's still a lot more to do in women's health. And I really hope that we will see new energy and other women joining together as they did in the beginning in 1953 to say, we're not finished, there's a lot more to do, and we're still going to be in there working for new goals.
Carol Moore, elected to the board in 1976, she is a past president. She offers technical consulting to the healthcare industry and has served on several Virginia state commissions. She is president of MedStar Health, Visiting Nurses Association Foundation, and a founding member of the Capital Area Society for Healthcare Planning and Marketing.
I have found the National Board to be such an incredible experience. All the women are just fantastic. They all bring a different dimension to the board, to my life, and most importantly, I have been very, very impressed with our awardees, and I have had the privilege of working as the award chairman on a couple of times, and just meeting these fantastic women that we've sponsored and have honored over the years. It is just a privilege and an honor to be associated with this group.
Shirley Chamberlain, elected to the board in 1977. She is a past president. She was the founding president of the Capitol Press Club Women and a charter member of the Women's Institute and Freedom of the Press. A consumer writer, radio broadcaster, producer, and member of the press staff of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, she received the Community Service Award from the American Association of University Women.
It's a pleasure to be here today, and to be a part of the National Board was really a very interesting experience for me, and I feel that we did a great deal for public identification with the women in medicine. And we look forward to the continuation of the Medical College of Pennsylvania in its new form. It's been a pleasure to be just a small part of this, from being president to promoting it in every way possible, because it's an opportunity for women that has needed to be addressed. Thank you.
Ariel Hollingshead, Ariel Hollingshead, elected to the board in 1988 and a former National Board Award recipient. She is a research oncologist specializing in immunotherapy. She is a professor emeritus of the Department of Medicine, George Washington Medical Center. She has been named Medical Woman of the Year by the Joint Board of American Medical Colleges, and she won the Distinguished Scientist Award from the National Society for Experimental Biology and Medicine.
It's certainly nice to be here, especially on this 50th anniversary of the Women's Board. I joined the board because I felt very strongly that we still needed to do a lot in our effort to raise women to the top of medical science and medicine. I remember when I received my award, it was the bicentennial spring. It was also the 125th anniversary of the Medical College of Pennsylvania. Now, I don't usually say this, but I am a member of the Society of Friends, a little Quaker girl who was raised 8 generations, and many of the women and men in my family helped to begin the Medical College of Pennsylvania through very strong contributions, and lots of cousins were involved. So I felt especially proud when I was chosen out of the blue, without their knowing anything about my background, to come to Philadelphia and to get this lovely award. I also received an award in 1976 because they wanted to honor a woman during the bicentennial. And so the Joint Board of American Medical Colleges selected me, and I think it's because MCP had chosen me that led the way to this national honor of being the medical woman of the bicentennial year. So how do you pay back for this? Well, you don't really have very much time in my profession. But I took the time, and I've met the most wonderful women and men here. One of the faculty members who influenced me the most was Dr. Paige Morahan. Why? She and others decided that it was important to have still a remembrance of how this medical school started, only for women, the only women's medical school for years. And also the great importance of the wonderful president who presented me with my award. She came out of retirement, and I was very proud to receive my medal from Dr. Fay. So it's all this tie-in that makes me proud. So I think a lot about Paige because I quoted an article of hers very recently called Women at the Top of Science and What More Needs to Be Done, How We Have Failed, whether or not it would have been better to keep our kid gloves on and not to be so strong about our feminist goals, that there was a very long delay in women rising to the top. We got so far, and now we had to crush the glass ceiling. But men need to know that we are in their corner too. So I found that the way Paige went about it, what she suggested be done, I think that that's still terribly important, and I'd like to let her know. So I've very much enjoyed being a part of the board. It's like meeting a lot of old friends, and it's so nice to see you, Eileen Haig. You were a spark and certainly made me happy and proud to be a member.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Jane Barth, elected to the board in 1997. She has served as its treasurer. She is from Philadelphia and is a professor emeritus in chemistry from Mersinus College. She has been active with her alma mater, Mount Holyoke, and with her church in Valley Forge.
Thank you. I became interested in medicine as a youngster in the 9th grade. I thought I would turn out to be a pathologist, but I didn't receive very much encouragement for doing that. My family doctor said, oh yes, that was fine, but no one else said it was fine. When I came to Philadelphia, I began to teach chemistry and noticed that there was a lack of women in the field of chemistry. And many of those people in chemistry went on to medicine, so there was a lack of women entering in the field of medicine. Over the years, I watched this change little by little, and then when I came onto the board, I was able to realize that it had changed a great deal through the efforts of the National Board and its award for women prominent in the field of medical science. We have now achieved our goal to increase the number of women entering in the field of medicine. And in fact, today, most medical schools have over 50% women, which is a welcome relief to us members of the board. So I think that today, as we celebrate our 50th birthday, we have come to the end of a golden path and are ready to close the door with success. You're welcome.
Annette Feinsilver was elected to the board in 1992 and is a past president. A retired realtor, she was honored in 1994 as the outstanding non-lawyer by the Denver Bar Association for her contributions to the community. She also won the President's Award from RE/MAX International. She served as president of the Faith Chapter of the Auxiliary of American Medical Center, a cancer research facility in Colorado, and has directed programs at the University of Denver College of Law for the deaf and physically impaired.
I'm so thrilled to be here today and really want to express many thoughts and a mixed bag, if you will, of how I feel about this board taking on a new passage. It's really remarkable that we've reached the point where so much has been accomplished, but we ain't done yet. There is indeed an awful lot to be done on behalf of women, students. The glass ceiling has never been broken, in my opinion. We don't have women in very powerful roles. Although there is an improvement, there still are not enough women in powerful roles in the area of medicine. It was a trip and a half being president of this organization. I promised I would sit down and tell a dirty joke. It wouldn't be appropriate to do that, but I really think that we've come a long way, baby. And if this somehow gets tucked away into an archive for 150 years from now, please take note that the bags under our eyes have only been enhanced by the tough job that we had to do. This whole event this weekend could never have taken place without the tremendous work of Eileen Haig, who had the tenacity, the patience, the humor, the charm, the knowledge, the skill to put this together in a most effective way and to draw so many people who were really beginners at this point because we're all worn out to a meeting like this is really remarkable. So I wish to commend Eileen and tip my hat. There's a bright future for all of us out there, and the young women who will follow us will be very, very proud to walk in our beloved shadow.
Roselle Frankel, elected in 1992. She is a professor of management at Rowan University and Drexel University. She has consulted with the Planning Department of the City of Philadelphia and the Anti-Violence Partnership of Philadelphia. She has authored numerous articles on religion in the media, the development of management skills, and the use of technology in organizations.
You want me to talk about what the board has meant to me? When I first joined the board, I was very much concerned about women in management and the fact that they weren't there. And I felt that this was one group that really was paying attention to the fact that women are very often behind the scenes but not recognized for their contributions in science. The double helix episode comes to mind with Rosalind Franklin, and I thought that the award was a major award and As far as I knew, it was the only one that was going to women in science. I wasn't.
Linda Ramsey, elected in 1981, she is a past president of the board. A medical administrator by profession, she has been director of the Division of Scientific and Educational Activities of the California Medical Association and has been a member of the board of the San Francisco Hearing and Speech Center and a friend of the Northern California Transplant Bank. She is chair of the board of the municipality of Fallen Leaf Lake, California.
It was a great pleasure to join the National Board in 1980. I had so many wonderful friends the year I came on. The friendships continue. The cause, one that all working women understand, which is parity in the workplace, particularly in medical education, continues to be important to me. I think we've done good things. I think we've had a hell of a lot of fun.
That was the best part. Penelope Hall, elected to the board in 1997. She is the daughter of Elizabeth Boatwright Coker, who joined the board in 1956. A former television journalist for NBC TV in New York, Penelope is listed in Who's Who in America and Who's Who in the World. She has published children's books and is on the boards of the National Trust for Historic Preservation and Coker College.
My mother was one of the founding members of this board, and her name was Elizabeth Boatwright Coker. And when I used to watch her packing to come to this board, to the meetings, I would say, "Oh, why can't I come with you? It sounds so interesting." And she said, "Because I have many interesting friends on this board, and they are not like any people that you know." Then, bless her heart, when she went to heaven, I became invited to come on the board. And I thought, wow, this was something I really aspired to. So I was invited to be on the board. I joined it. I'm sure everybody has talked about what the board does and how all the work's good and viable that they do. But to me, I'll skip that. The women that I have met on this board have been among the most interesting people. My mother was right. The most interesting people I have met in my life, and it has given me such pleasure and enhanced my life enormously, and I have enjoyed it, and whatever good things we have done, that was pleasant too. But I've just loved every minute of it. Thank you.
Dottie Myers was elected to the board in 1978 and is a past president of the Commonwealth Board of the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania. She serves as a volunteer and member of the advisory board of a New Jersey association that protects a natural area from pollution and overdevelopment.
Good evening. It's nice to be with all of you from the National Board again. I go back to the 1960s. I wish I had an exact date, but in any case, that was with the Commonwealth Board. And we met with the National Board once a year for lunch or for dinner, and it was always nice. We were good sisterly people. And then I became president, and after that, I was invited to join the National Board, and that was, as you said, in 1978. Thank you for that, because I didn't know but what it was, 1975 or something. But I really felt coming into this and the Commonwealth Board, both organizations, was a privilege in that this originated, what we're supporting was the female medical college in 1850 in Philadelphia. Is it the oldest or second oldest in the world?
I think it was the first or just
And we supported women until the government brought in men to, whatever.
anyway, and then we continue to support women, and we are doing it today. We're still in 21st century. We're still supporting women in medicine, and it's a wonderful thing. And I am glad to be here tonight, and I'm glad that we have established a fund which will continue to bring young, underprivileged women in with scholarships. And I just hope it's, and I know you are very instrumental in holding it all together, pulling us up by our bootstraps when we had to be. And thank you.
Selma Smith, a chart. Okay, we'll start over again. Okay. Okay, Selma Moidel Smith. Right, okay. Okay, ready? Selma Moidel Smith, a charter member of the board since 1953. Selma is also a past president. She is a lawyer and has been an officer of many national and local bar associations. She is a fellow of the American Bar Foundation, and in addition, she is a musician and composer and an officer in national music organizations. For her Spanish language activities, she has been decorated by the Dominican Republic. She is listed in Who's Who in America, Who's Who in American Law, the International Encyclopedia of Women Composers, and Who's Who of American Women.
Well, thank you. That was a lovely introduction you gave me, Eileen. And it's a wonderful occasion to be here. Truly it is. This is something we've all been looking forward to, and I know that everyone will carry home many wonderful memories from this very eventful evening that we have together.
I know we'll get Barry Trimmingham, elected in 2001. She has been an editor in book publishing and a writing consultant. She has directed a book publishing institute for the University of Pennsylvania's College of General Studies. She has earned a master's degree in bioethics from the University of Pennsylvania School of Medicine, and she works as a volunteer for Jefferson Hospice and Home Care, and she is a member of the Institutional Review Board for Thomas Jefferson University.
I'm the newest member of the National Board and very proud to have been brought onto this board and have enjoyed helping compile the commemorative book for our celebration. I was brought on by my dear friend Nathalie Bartle, who was a client of mine, helped publish her book. So that's been a great experience.
Alice Anderson, elected to the board in 1975, served as vice president of the board and chair of the awards committee. She is from Utah, where she has been active in the Junior League, Ballet Guild, the Cerebral Palsy Board, the Arthritis Foundation, and is the chairman of the Quality of Life Committee of the LDS Church.
Thank you very much. It is absolutely superb to be here, Eileen. This was was this your idea? It has brought together so many memories for all of us, I cannot tell you. You know, when I was welcomed as a member of the National Board, the mission was pretty simple then. I think that we really kind of focused on honoring and paying homage to those women of the past who paved the way for the women of the future. And I think we accomplished that because the women of the future are now the present honorees that we're honoring. There was always a feeling of welcome here. We were always made to feel very comfortable, and I think that assuaged any fears that we might have had in working on a board with people from all over. I don't think we can forget the leadership of the people who preceded us, though. Those women doctors who were so brave. You know, the adjectives that describe the doctors range from one end of the spectrum to another. they were called either unsexy, old maids, or seductive vamps. So you take your pick. You know, we can laugh about that now, but I'm sure at the time it was very, very painful. And I remember specifically Dr. Marion Fay, after whom the award is named, and of course Dr. Walter Cohen, who has kind of saved the university in very perilous times. It's been a great experience. So, thank you.
Good.
Now,
Ruth Dubois, elected to the board in 1987. She has been the executive director of the Corporate Alliance for Drug Education since its inception. She served on the Pennsylvania Governor's Council on Drug and Alcohol Abuse and has authored reports for Secretary Joseph Califano's New York State Heroin and Alcohol Abuse Study. She also has served on boards of the Montgomery County Mental Health Mental Retardation Program, the Belmont Behavioral Health System, and the Albert Einstein Medical Center.
It's very nice to be here. It's very sad that we're probably not going to see each other again, because this board has been really very important to me. When I came on the board, I had a son that started medical school at the same time. And I learned just what a wonderful medical school MCP was. I also had shared a lab with Doris Bartuska at one point, so I was ahead of the game there. But I've met so many wonderful people. I've been particularly pleased with our endowment for an outstanding woman in science every year. That was very important to me, and I'm glad to see that it's going to continue. So, is that it?
That's good. You can go have dinner.
Thank you.
Yes. Mary Lou Forster Berry, elected to the board in 1978. She worked at the Medical College of Pennsylvania, coordinating a program with Bryn Mawr College for prospective medical students. She also has been active with the United Way and the Philadelphia Citizens Committee for Children and Youth, as well as with the Montgomery County Citizens Advisory Committee.
That's true, certainly. However, I would like to add that it wasn't just for people who wanted the coordination of the program with Bryn Mawr, was for post-bac people who had not started in with the idea they wanted to be in medicine, but then had already changed their orientation so that they had to get basic sciences. And so that was where the coordination developed. But I'm still active with Montgomery County Children and Youth, and I do a contact crisis care line, and feel that women have come so far in medicine now, but it's because a lot of people over the years have worked to help open the doors for them. My husband was head of the ophthalmology department there at Medical College, and he loved teaching women and felt that they were more responsive and better, more dedicated students than some of the men. But it's been great to see the whole field open up, and I think that National Board saw that need a long while ago and helped open some of those doors.
Zilpha Bassoni, elected to the board in 1979. She is a speech-language pathologist for the Veterans Affairs Medical Center in Washington, D.C., and was a clinical assistant professor at the Department of Surgery at Georgetown University School of Medicine.
Thank you. And my mother was also a board member, and so when she died, then I was appointed to the board. And it has been a wonderful experience. I have enjoyed it tremendously. I've enjoyed especially the other members of the board, getting to know them, getting to learn from them, making friends that obviously, as tonight will tell, have gone through the years, the friendship. I also have enjoyed being a part of hopefully providing some service for, or support at least, for women in medicine. At one time, I thought that I would like to go into medicine as a profession, but really, actually, frankly, I thought I was too stupid to become a doctor. I've learned since that's not true. But, supporting the idea of women in medicine has been very rewarding. And I just can't speak highly enough of what I personally have gotten, and hopefully that I have given something to the board, but personally I've gained a great deal from being a member of this board. It's been terrific, and tonight is a marvelous experience being together with people that I have known through the years. It's just been extraordinary, and thank you for the opportunity.
It's been my pleasure to introduce you to the extraordinary women who have been members of the National Board for Women in Medicine, and this is just a few. We had almost 500 women over our 50 years, and they've all been just as terrific. I was asked to mention before we conclude this tape that we also must remember that Gladys Dascom provided the leadership and organizational skills with Dr. Fay and Mrs. Kelly. And they started this national board, and Dr. Bartuska asked me to make sure that when we put this tape to bed for the archives, for any of you who are watching whenever, that you'll know a little bit more about the history of the National Board for Women in Medicine. Thank you for caring, and thanks for taking an interest. Special box here, a couple special boxes, you know. We went through some challenging times, and a lot of people who were members of our board participated and stayed the course and helped us. And there was a person who was not a member of our board who, frankly, was there for us, and we would like to acknowledge Sherman Fine-Silver. If someone goes into room 1311, please forgive them. And you know, I wanted to tell you that it was a year and a half ago that I took the gavel for the presidency of the National Board from Nathalie Bartle. And I thought that I had worked really hard to get ready to be the president of the National Board. I mean, I had Denny Gordon was my first mentor. When I joined the board at her invitation, she was the president of the board.
I give to you all.
And thank you, Debbie. And then, just like all of us, I had some time here and some time away, and then I came back and I got involved with the awards committee, and Gail Forster was the chairman of the awards committee, and she taught me everything. She was so fabulous. And so I thought, okay, I took over as chair of the awards committee, and I saw what Denny did, and I saw what Gail did, and then we hit a few hard times, and I watched Linda Ramsey, and I watched Annette, and I had a few trepidations, but Carol Moore came along, and I thought, okay, we can do this. And so I thought, okay, I know how to do this. I'm going to be the president of the National Board, and it's be fine. And then I took the gavel, and Walter Cohen said, next year is the 50th anniversary. And I said, no, I don't want to know that. And I thought, take it back, because I know how to do this. I don't know how to plan a 50th birthday party. But Walter said it had to be done. So, that was, as I think about it, that was so typical of Walter Cohen. I mean, he's always had the big picture. And he's always been there for the National Board. And we just, he even created, I think, the link for us as we go forward, having, first of all, shared Betty with us that was wonderful, and then establishing the Betty Cohen Chair, which is now occupied by Lynn Yackel at the Institute for Women's Health and Leadership. It kind of gave us a unbroken thread. And as you know, Walter has just always kind of been there to set the table, and then he kind of says, go do it, and I'll watch how it gets done, and comes in if you need help, and he's just been wonderful. And so Walter, would you please come up here and accept our award, because we want to say thank you on behalf of all of us. And before you go back, would you like to say anything for the archives?
It was a labor of love. I really cherish the moments we've had together. I know Betty really enjoyed being an honorary member of the National Board, and I remember so vividly when she came back from the first meeting, and as was typical of the National Board, each member got up and told what they did that year that was significant, and she says, "You're not going to believe this." And she started telling me Selma Smith wrote a symphony, and she went on and on and on. And I think that the National Board has been a very special part of the Medical College of Pennsylvania, and before that, Women's Medical. And I'm really delighted that we're able to carry on the way we are now as part of the Institute for Women's Health and Leadership. And I hope by the time we finish tomorrow night, you'll think that this is our right home. So thank you for this, and thank you for your undying love, and I hope we can be together for many more years.
Here we go. I wanted to pass on one other thing, which, you know, when I took that gavel, I got this gavel, which was presented to the National Board by Shirley Chamberlain. Yes. And I was thinking about this, and I thought it needs to reside someplace permanently and special. So from all of us.
Oh, my. Thank you.
No, and Walter just gave me a great segue, because he talked about Selma. And, you know, so many of the meetings, Selma always had what we were doing and kept us together with our kudos. And so when we were planning this evening, I know there's no one who knows more about the National Board's history than Selma does. And so we contacted Selma and first asked her if she would give us some remarks about the history of the board. But then, of course, she went above and beyond, because Nathalie and Barry used all of her files. And I know that she's worked tirelessly on our behalf, as she did so many times, and for so many other organizations. So I'm going to turn, and I have to apologize, because I thought I didn't arrange a microphone for this evening. And so I told Selma, so please listen carefully and be quiet so she doesn't have to shout too loud, and because it's my fault. So I take responsibility, and if that's the only mistake I make this weekend, I'll be real happy. Selma, please come forward. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm sorry again. Go ahead. I'll go.
Shall we dance?
Yes.
I shall do my best to throw my voice in all directions at one time. I can only tell you that for me, this is a unique experience, and I wish I could say I'm sharing it with all of you. But you have to know that there is a great deal that I connect with the people whose faces have been appearing in front of me ever since I knew that we were going to meet together. People with whom I worked, people with whom I began our hopes and all our activities for the National Board. And so many of them are not with us. And I wish they were, and I see them, and I know, I feel as though I'm on top of a bridge which looks in two directions. One to the past that I knew so well, and for so many years, and one that I'm looking at tonight, and how delighted I am to see all of the faces I'm looking at tonight. It's just the greatest joy to me. I will tell you, in addition, I did manage to speak with one of our presidents. She was not a charter member, but she was an early president. And her name is Alice Strauss. Actually, she was the wife and now widow of Admiral Lewis L. Strauss. And so we were very happy to talk on the phone again together. And she said how nice that everybody was able to do this and get together. And she said, you know, Selma, last March I celebrated a birthday, and I was 100 years old. And I said, well, my goodness. I said, well, I'm 84. And she said, well. As you see, everything is relative. So I said no more, and I kept my proper place. But she was delighted to know, and I told her that I would be giving her greetings to all of you, and she reminded me that I still owed her a visit, as she had invited me many times through the years. So I will carry back good greetings to her, too. And you know, I can't help thinking, just as Eileen mentioned the Rittenhouse Hotel, my thoughts go back to the Barclay. This is where we met. This is where we all used to stay. And I remember the very first time I saw Rittenhouse Square. And when we got off at the hotel, and I can see it now, 50 years ago, this spring that passed. It's hard to put into a few thoughts all of the wonderful experiences, all of the feelings that were expressed back and forth. I know that Gladys Dascom, who is the guiding light, because it was her idea to form a national board. It had never occurred to anyone before. And I want you to know that she achieved a tremendous thing when, in the early days of 1953, the president, Burgess L. Gordon of the college, sent out a letter to women, a special group of women throughout the country, inviting them to join a charter national board for the college. And I was one of those privileged to receive that letter of invitation from the president. And I remember that I sent back a reply and said I understood his confusion. There are many Smiths, but that I was not in the medical field, that I was a lawyer, and however, I wished him well. And he sent back a letter immediately and said, we know exactly who you are. It was not a mistake. We want you to be on our charter national board. And I asked at the time how he, in Philadelphia, happened to know about what was happening in Los Angeles. And he said, I can't give you the name of the person who referred you to us. And he said, We aren't doing that with our charter members. So to this day, I still don't know to whom I owe this wonderful chapter. I can't say chapter because it opened a whole world to me. And you know, I remember that I even wrote back and said, well, I'm sorry, I still can't be on your board because I don't lend my name to institutions I don't know. And so he said, well, then I hope that you will find it in your very near future to have some reason to be back this way, and please, please, we want you to come and see us. Well, it did happen. I was going to be in New York, and so I made it my occasion to come and visit this Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. And I remember still, and I can see it now. Forgive me if I leave you and join them for just a few moments. And I'm looking at Dr. Marion Fay, the dean of the college, who greeted me, and I remember shaking hands with her, and from the first moment that we met, we struck up a close friendship. And Margaret Kelly, who was really a pillar of the college, and with whom I shared an interesting occasion that I'll mention in just a moment. And I remember so well Gladys Dascom herself, who was so pleased and proud to see, as she called it, her girls, her own girls. And I must say, I suggest to all of you, you know, if you're going to be in an organization, start young. Because when things have gone on for many, many years, you can still be there to tell them about it. I remember that we had this beautiful banquet at the Barclay. And I have to tell you that I remember so well. They extended us such courtesies in Philadelphia. The lovely women of the city, we would be emerging from our hotel ready to be taken to the, we were going out looking for cabs to come to the college and hospital and for our meetings. And lo and behold, were these limousines that pulled up with chauffeurs. And these lovely women got out of their cars, turned their cars over to us, and they went out to hail a cab so that we would be taken in style to the college and hospital to have our meetings. I can assure you that you can get spoiled very quickly. And I see that scene so well in my mind. And I well remember, it was only 5 years later when we were invited, 42 of us, and I will mention in a moment about the number of the charter group. 42 of the group were invited to come to the White House to be received by Mamie Eisenhower, our First Lady. And just shortly before that, Gladys Dascom had presented her with an honorary membership certificate in the National Board, which was very well recorded. And here was this occasion now in 1958, in the spring again, when Margaret Kelly, mother of our beautiful Princess Grace, she and I shared our cab together from the Washington Hotel over to the White House. And we all gathered there in the lovely East Room, and we were waiting for Mamie to arrive. And Margaret Kelly had a bit of a sense of humor about her that most people didn't know. And as we were standing there, a woman came up to me, and she said, "My name is Selma Smith." And I said, "Well, my name is Selma Smith." And she said, "Yes, I know." And I glanced at Margaret, and she was examining the ceiling of the room we were in. And the woman continued, "And I'm from Ohio." And I said, "Well, so am I." And Margaret is still examining the walls now. And this woman says to me, I'm Selma Smith Burton. My husband is Associate Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. And I said, how wonderful. I said, Judge Burton, I have business with him. In just a few days, I'm going to be admitted to practice before the U.S. Supreme Court. And she said, good, I will tell him tonight. Well, when that occasion arrived, I have to tell you, this was a sight to remember. When all of us stood in the first row who had business with the court, and you watch all those black figures, cloaked figures coming in and taking their seats, just as he passed me, he leaned over and he did this. If you can picture our very dignified court and everyone in it, and the laugh rippled all the way through. And he very sedately took his place. And at that point, Chief Justice Earl Warren decided it was a good moment to say, and let me welcome my colleague from California, Selma Moidel Smith. So I had a double dose of hospitality on that occasion, all starting with Selma Smith Burton in the White House. And of course, you can imagine that our visit there was truly memorable. You know, there are times when you have regrets too. And I remember an occasion when we had been taken to the Philadelphia Museum of Art, and we were just coming out, and Ruby Sears, whose husband was in the Sears-Roebuck family, said to me, Selma, could you stay on for just a few days with me? And I said, I wish I could. I said, but I have an office to get back to. And I couldn't. And what I didn't know was that Ruby was dying of cancer and had managed somehow to keep this from all of us. And how I wished that I had been able to do just that, because I never saw her again. And these are the things we learn with the years. We learn what matters and what values there are in the relationships we form. We had so many beautiful occasions. We had our work, but believe me, they always had planned a beautiful event for us, a tour, visits to places that we ordinarily would not be able to get in to see. They made us part of the family. And when we would be at the hospital, when we would be in the boardroom of the college, it was something that I well remember the Board of Corporators meetings when I was president from 1980 to 82. And I remember saying to William Brecht and the group, when he asked for a report, I said, we of the National Board are a unique group for you because we are the only ones who come and give you the gift of our presence from such a distance. All your other groups are in your own vicinity, and we are the ones who must make that journey and make that contribution just to come to hear what it is you want to present to us. And he never forgot that. And he quoted that on various occasions in thanking the National Board for their participation. The Senate. And we were having our luncheon and then our speaker, and I had asked Ariel to be our speaker. Well, just in the midst of her speech, Senator Hines arrived to make his greeting to the National Board. And they were wondering what in the world was going to happen now. She was continuing on with her talk, and he was about to leave. And so I stepped up to Ariel, and of course she was already a member of our National Board. And she wondered, I stepped up to her in the midst of her remarks, and I said, it's such a nice thing to know that Ariel is part of our family and will allow me to interrupt her at this time so Senator Hines can bring his greeting to us. And she said, oh, well, yes. And you know, tonight she said, I didn't even remember that. And I remember what an embarrassing moment it was for me watching him about to leave and Ariel in the midst of the point she was making on a medical discovery. And so we could only do that with family. And this was something that, just sitting next to her now, I thought of it. And these are the things, you know, there are 50 years of memories I have. Let me bring you up to date. Let me tell you that the National Board, which has meant so much to me, because I know, and it brought me into it at the very beginning, it is a parallel experience to women in law. This was a women's medical college. Formed why? Because they needed a place for women to become physicians, and because they were not being admitted elsewhere. When the doctors heard me talk, when the students heard me say something, they felt better, because they were saying, we are only 8%, we women are only 8% of the medical profession. That was then. And I said, well, if you'll feel better, women lawyers occupy the place of 3% of the legal profession in this country. It was two paths running to the same thing, and I could identify, and they knew that I could. Now, in preparation for this occasion, I received from Natalie and from Barry communications which led to my becoming involved in the matter of bringing up to date our people of the National Board, and they had asked me to write the history for it, since for some reason they thought I might have some information about it. I started to do this first for the charter members, and then finally went on to the later members. And tomorrow evening, we will be receiving something for us to take home, which was something to do with our up-to-dating of the membership. And I will remember the email that Barry sent me when I told her that the number of the names now reached 500 with which I was dealing and preparing. And I remember her message, wow. Well, tonight I wanted to bring something to you too. I mentioned this to Natalie, to Eileen, and well, let's put it, I will introduce for just a second the matter of my son's being here, because when I turned to him in the airport yesterday to take off for Philadelphia, I turned to say goodbye to him, and when I did, he looked at me with a big smile and he said, "You don't have to say goodbye. I have a seat on your plane." And so I wanted to tell you, I wanted to tell you that I had prepared something that I thought you might be interested in having as a keepsake. Copies of the original program that was given to me at the very first charter meeting, March 10 of 1953, which has listed in it the names of all of the charter members and their states. And it will afford you the opportunity to know officially who was and was not a charter member, because you will find all of their names, but only their names. And what you will find tomorrow evening is what has been updated for much of the National Board's charter group. And you will then be able to compare what has actually been, and I have to use the phrase myself, a labor of love. I borrowed that phrase from Dr. Cohen, and it only served to remind me of something else. One of the other people was Audrey Meyer Mars. And I have not ever told anyone this before. The college knew it, finally, but when I began my term in 1980, I was on vacation, and I called in to the college to see if everything was all right, if I was needed for anything for a board, whatever, and this was from Martha's Vineyard. And I was told that they had just come upon a letter that apparently had been misfiled. A letter from someone, Audrey Meyer Mars, who had resigned from the National Board. And I said, what? And they said, yes. Did you want the letter? And I said, I want not just the letter, I want her phone number, and I would like it now. And so they got her number for me, and right there from that same phone in Martha's Vineyard, I called Audrey, and she told me why she had resigned and so on, and that had even happened a few months before, and that she was no longer part of the National Board. And let's say that we had a conversation. I spoke with Audrey, and I made assurances to her about a number of things. And our friendship formed exactly at that moment. And from that moment on, she sat at my side at everything at which I presided. And everything was different from that point on. And as a result, that was in 1980. She was with us for the last 10 years of her life. And we well remember that in 1987, she created our first it was the single largest contribution, $1 million, that she gave to the college to create the chair for geriatric research. And it was Dr. Cohen who had arranged this with her. And in this moment, I feel several things. One, that his not knowing that we shared a partnership here, that Audrey was there for him to meet, and for Dr. Cohen to do his magic, and that he obtained this for the college. And it continues. I do hope to see some mention of it. I did try to track it and was unable to find it. I spoke to Dr. Joel Posner, who occupies that chair, and I didn't find it in connection with his name even. So I do hope that the name of Audrey Meyer Mars will be used in connection with the chair, since she is the one who gave it. And I'm sure Dr. Cohen will see that that is done. And I wanted to thank you for looking after my good friend so well as to create this. And I don't need to say at this moment, speaking of chairs, how much we love Betty and how much I cherished her and picture her, and I love the picture I have with her, just the two of us. And it's part of what I was talking about, just the things that move your heart and fill your life with meaning when you know these people. And I just wanted to commend Dr. Cohen for what he had done, and to share that with all of you, because I was happy to be able to keep Audrey for all of us. Beautiful woman in spirit and in her face. And I don't have to tell you, and I will close this in just a moment by telling you that on the 20th anniversary of our board, Margaret Kelly, whom I referred to, gave us the gift on that occasion of her daughter, Princess Grace, who came from Monaco to be present at our party, and in fact made it. And it was such a wonderful, beautiful occasion, and reminded me of all the times that Margaret Kelly had hosted us of the National Board at their home. And I see right now, I'm sitting at the dressing table of Princess Grace, looking at a picture of Prince Rainier and their children. And I'm remembering that 20th anniversary when we had the occasion to enjoy her for several days. She was with us for all those times. And when she had this most unfortunate accident, the college was so kind. They sent me pictures that she and I had together, and which again are I speak of what we treasure, the people we got to know. And I want to bring it fast forward now to right now, because there is something I wanted to leave with you, and that was the copy of the charter list of the National Board. And because I mentioned this to my son, not dreaming that he was going to be here even, I told him, I said, I want to work out some way that I can get a copy of these, because I want to give one to each of our members. And lo and behold, my son did better than that. He produced them himself. So I have them here, and Mark, if you would be good enough to take them out of the box, I would like to pass these now to all the members of the National Board. Perhaps, yes, if you would be good enough. You see, mothers and sons, children are never free of being told what to do, you know. And so I hope you will enjoy this. You will find it in its original colors. If I can have one for just a moment, I just want to hold it up to you while it's being passed out. And I wanted to let you know that on the back, well, here is the list that you'll be looking at of all the charter members, just as it was handed out to us. On the back, what you see is the banquet program, and as it says, Ballroom of the Barclay. That page was on an insert inside of this. But my son, being very ingenious, instead of having additional pages, put that program right on the back, so that you have all of it with you here. And you see here the name of Mrs. M. Franklin Dascom, our Gladys Dascom, assistant to the president, who called the National Board members a roll call by states. So I want you to know that this is what happened. One of our members, National Board members, Madam Agi Yambor, pianist, performed for us. It was a beautiful evening. The governor was there. The mayor was there, the president of our college, of course. We had marvelous speaking, and including Dr. Marion Fay. And this is something that you can imagine that I took with me over 50 years ago, and which has been in my hands and in my heart all these many, many years. And I wanted to share it with you and give it to you so we can have it all together. And thank you very much for having me here. Thank you for this lovely occasion. Thank you for letting me be with you and inviting me to come and be here with you. And I don't have to tell you, I'm giving you a hug and a kiss, every one of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Could I add one thing to what you said?
Yes.
Since Selma brought up Audrey Meyer-Mars, I have to tell you how I was able to follow up with what she had done by keeping Audrey on the board. I think she was a vice president by the time I came in 1985, and I was amazed that a school that was 135 years old did not have one endowed chair or professorship. And I approached Audrey at one of the National Board meetings in Florida and asked her if she would endow a chair in geriatrics. And she said, how much would it cost? And I said, $1 million. And she said, could we spread it over a few years? And I said, I'm sure we could arrange that. And she sent me to Chicago to meet with her financial advisor. And he said, I know what she said, but he says, I have to tell you, I'm a Scotsman, and I'm only giving you $750,000. When Audrey read the press release of her chair, she called him up and raised hell. And she said, you give them $1 million. And she also said to me, I don't want this chair to be just for education. I want the elderly to benefit. And that's how it became a chair in gerontological research. And the Audrey Meyer Marsh chair is, Selma's right, is occupied by Joel Posner. And what happened when Vince Christofalo became the first Audrey Meyer Marsh professor, he wanted laboratories in the floor below my office, and Audrey came up with another gift of several $100,000 to equip those labs, and she said, make sure he doesn't blow you up. But I have the plaque in my office, a beautiful bronze plaque that was taken from the day of the dedication, and I would like that to be put somewhere, maybe the proper places in the archives. But Audrey was an amazing woman, and such a wonderful contrast, too. Many of us knew Forrest Mars, and
Yes.
going to
Oh,
national
yes.
board
Oh,
meetings,
my, yes.
and when he said, I'm not involved in my wife's charities, he says, my contribution to this country is all the people I employ in my chocolate factory. So, okay, but thank you for a wonderful history.
Let me assure you that we do have a wonderful dessert coming, but if you would all be patient for one more minute, I think Gail Forrester has a few remarks that she would like to make.
Years, I just want to say what a great privilege to be here tonight. And when we think of the wonderful women that we've had that have led this organization, and as we went through one difficult thing after another and one marvelous thing after another, and we've come to this point. And we had the feeling that the fact that we have arrived at where we are, a place where we should feel at home and where the principle of the National Board will go on. We think of bringing us to this point and the wonderful leadership we've had over this last couple of years. And, you know, she talks about having been mentored. That just isn't so. I'll tell you the truth about that. We were a team, we worked together. She had marvelous ideas and still has them. And I suggested that we have something special for her, and I thought perhaps it ought to be a bird cage. But then she didn't have a bird, so there's no point in giving her a bird cage. And I have no idea what's in it. I know it isn't a bread box, but it comes with love and appreciation and admiration from all of your colleagues here tonight.
Walter, thank you for suggesting we should celebrate our 50th birthday. And thank you to everybody who has, you know, contributed to this board before me and during my time. And let's enjoy dessert and we'll continue the weekend. Thank you so much. You want me to open it? Yes. I love little boxes. If I pass it around, I want it back. Oh, that's beautiful. beautiful. Let me see, how do I, it's a brooch, right?
Whoa, that is gorgeous. Wow.
I will take it to 1309, and you may all admire it. It's beautiful. Thank you very much. It's beautiful. That's so pretty. Thank you for taping. I think that we are now done.
As Eileen's lifelong friend, I just want to tell everybody I was her.
Okay.